Good day, fellow cinephiles. I just watched The Boy Behind the Door, and it was decent. This is the first feature of David Charbonnier and Justin Powell, who both wrote and directed this film. This film was also released by Shudder, which is like a streaming service but for the horror genre. Now, I haven't heard or seen any Shudder originals being talked about, maybe because they're usually very low budget or they're no good, I don't know. But this film piqued my interest when I saw its Rotten Tomatoes score. Now, I take Rotten Tomatoes rating with a heavy grain of salt. Sometimes they get it right and sometimes they don't, but in this case, I say they sort of got it right. I think this film is a case where people generally like it, but it's no masterpiece. Based on a simple premise, a small cast, and a single location, you can kinda tell that the film had a very small budget. However, you wouldn't be able to tell from watching because the cinematography was quite professionally done, and the editing especially made for a well-paced and tense experience. Now, the film would completely fall apart if they hired shitty kid actors who can't sell their roles, and I'm happy to say the two child performances were pretty well handled in the film. It impresses me that first-time directors were able to direct child actors in a way that didn't feel artificial and cringe. The vast majority of the film was heavily reliant on these two actors' ability to give convincing performances in order for scenes to work. A scene in particular in the beginning of the film where our main character is trying to kick his way out of the trunk of a car had me truly believe and feel the intense emotions of the character based on the kid's performance alone. The rest of the performances were fine. Another thing I appreciated was how bare bones and simple the plot and characters were. Sometimes with thrillers they always feel the need to add extra fluff and twists to the story and sacrifice logic and realism, but this film keeps it fairly straightforward and relying on its simple premise to carry the film forward. Despite all the characters not being all that complex, you still care about what's going on because of the solid filmmaking and display. Lastly, I appreciated how the main leads were acting like real kids in the film. Now, the kids are smart and clever, sure, but they are realistically nerfed in that they make mistakes that a kid their age would make. Our main character tries to drive a car to get help and fails miserably. Which makes sense because it illustrates the innocence and lack of world knowledge of children. And it helps with the overall believability of the characters and the tension of the film. Now, the film isn't without some execution flaws and conveniences that come along with most thrillers, some of which pulled me out of the movie. And at a certain point, the movie turns into The Shining. Now, I'm gonna be talking about spoilers, so click here if you want to skip all that. One of the scenes had the kid attempting to clean up a shitload of blood from the kitchen floor before the kidnappers show up, and the kid uses 2 fucking rags to clean all that blood, and somehow miraculously almost cleans it all up. That would have taken way longer than it should have. The kid didn't even have a bucket or something to squeeze out all that soaked up blood. Wiping the floor with an already bloody rag isn't gonna do much except spread the blood around. Another convenience was the scene where the kid discovers the safe in the bedroom and goes over to check inside while the kidnapper is washing her hands or something in the bathroom. And the fact that the kid has time to look at the folder and stare in horror at the pervy photos kinda baffles me. The kidnapper's right there. Time is of the essence right now. She could easily walk out any second. A small but notable flaw in the execution can be seen here when the kid gets rid of the dead body. The way this dead body curls up into a foul position was kinda sloppy.
Stuntman Zachary Hubert of Hollywood Stunts NYC showed us there is a right way to fall.
Number 1, you gotta protect your head.
What's step 2?
Step 2, you gotta ball up. You're not gonna go down a flight of stairs. If you're falling, you need to be like a ball. You need to roll.
The film begins rather well until it runs out of ideas and becomes Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, down to replicating very similar shots from the film. I was half expecting this scene for the kidnapper to say,
"Here's Johnny!"
We even also have a character to save the protagonist, and he gets axed to death in a very similar way. Despite all that and a couple of conveniences, this film is still an impressive albeit flawed debut film that is intense and well executed enough to keep it engaging throughout. And I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5 stars.